Chip makers and hardware manufacturers have quickly entered the AI market with new chip designs. But what is the hype and what will truly impact the industry? I'm with Tom Pieser from Intel to discuss the benefits and future potential of AI driven innovation. Tom, let's get to know you a little bit better. Talk to me about your role at Intel.
So I work in the category team within Intel's sales and marketing group, and I'm responsible for devising and driving the overall large enterprise client computing sales strategy at a global level. So I spend a lot of my time thinking about how PCs are eventually selected by companies for their employees. And I kind of do that through two different perspectives. One is through the ITDM, or the IT decision maker. These are the folks who are responsible for making PC purchase decisions. They care more about things like security and manageability. Then I also think about these purchases through the folks that are actually using those systems. So those are the large enterprise users. They care more about things like battery life and performance, responsiveness, and the weight of the system. So I also help drive alignment between the client computing group, which is our business unit, who is responsible for product decisions, and aligning those decisions to our regional sales teams and acting as a sort of a lynch point between the sales teams and the business unit to enable our strategies and tactics to help win in the market. So part of my job is getting familiar with the technology, and that spans areas like security, manageability, PC architecture, artificial intelligence, which is a very popular one these days, and then the associated software ecosystems that we leverage to help bring these technologies to life. And another part of my role is speaking to customers and partners. So it's really energizing to kind of hear about how they're using PCs to serve as critical tools to help them succeed in their respective businesses. So anyway, it's a very exciting opportunity to be part of this newly growing AI PC world here in our industry.
Speaking about your customers, how is the end of Windows 10 support and the adoption of Windows 11 affecting AI PC refresh decisions?
It's a great question, and it's a common one that has been coming up in a lot of customer conversations, right? We know from past experience that whenever Microsoft ends support of an older version of Windows, it drives organizations to upgrade so that they can avoid the cost and complexity of staying on older Windows versions, for example, Windows 7 and Windows 10. So we know that the next major transition is underway, as Microsoft will no longer be supporting security and feature updates or technical support to Windows 10 after October 14th of 2025. So as businesses look to transition to Windows 11, many of them will seek new hardware that can take advantage of the capabilities that are new to Windows 11. So Windows 11 Pro with Intel vPro, as an example, that's the most secure OS ever built. And businesses are going to benefit from that latest OS and hardware from Intel. And so organizations ultimately have a variety of choices of Intel processors in the PCs that are offered to them by companies like Dell and HP and Lenovo and others, as well as channel partners. So part of my role in the sales and marketing group is to help guide them to the best processors that are best suited for their particular needs, right? And so many of our customers are making 3 or 4 year decisions. And so what I mean by that is the PCs that they buy now will likely be in these employees' hands for 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 years. So they're looking for technology that will serve them well, not only now, but for years to come. I think, one of the things that we've been introducing is dedicated NPUs, or neural processing units, which are, they contain artificial intelligence based processing capabilities. And this is an emerging trend in our market. And so as companies look to take advantage of this hardware and the latest, capabilities within Microsoft 11, you get a better together situation when you're buying the latest hardware and the latest software. So some of these ITDMs were already planning to refresh their PCs or some of their PCs in 2025. Others were considering potentially pulling in some of those PC refreshes from 2026 into 2025 to take advantage of these new hardware and software capabilities. So at the end of the day, I think Windows 10 end of service is definitely causing a lot of folks to sort of rethink their refresh strategy and potentially accelerate it.
Now, Tom, there's been a lot of hype around AI PCs over the past year. What are some of the genuine benefits organizations are experiencing today?
This is a great question as well. I think we've heard loud and clear that the battery life needs to be improved. So we introduced new silicon in January, so very recently, that is delivering the promise of all-day battery life. And when we say all-day battery life, what we mean by that is being able to do everything you need to do in your day-to-day business life without needing to plug the laptop in to get a charge. And typically, for many people, that's probably about 8 hours. So that means someone can leave their charger at home or at work, go about their business, and just be free, right? To not have to worry about plugging it in. And so our latest silicon, which is the Core Ultra 200V series, this one offers 40% lower system on chip power than the previous generation. And so what that is enabling is 10 and a half hours of straight Teams calls. And I know nobody wants to be on a Teams call for 10 and a half hours straight, but many of us are on many different calls throughout the day. And so being able to have that confidence that you can do multiple calls without plugging in is very helpful. And so this is made partly responsible by offloading some of that AI processing. So things like noise cancellation and background blurring, those types of processes, we've worked hand in hand with Microsoft to move that off of the CPU and onto this new piece of silicon called the NPU. And that's really what is helping drive these all-day battery life capabilities that we're now seeing. Organizations are able to also to improve privacy by processing more AI workloads locally instead of sending them to the cloud and back. And so that adds a tremendous amount of value to organizations today. So we have the battery life story, we have the privacy story, and then cost is obviously another big one. So every cloud instance, if you're thinking about where companies are processing the majority of their AI today, it's in the cloud, right? So every cloud instance needs computation, or it needs cooling, it needs storage. And so by reducing the amount of data center infrastructure required to do that cloud-based processing, organizations are saving money. So moving AI processing from cloud to client has cost savings associated to it. And then I think the other thing is productivity. AI PCs are really helping to reduce many of the manual and repetitive tasks that many folks have to deal with today. So they help us find information more quickly, help us create presentations faster. We're able to formulate responses to questions in a more articulate manner and do it faster. And that allows us to spend time, less time doing those mundane tasks and more time doing the parts of our jobs that we enjoy more. And that leads ultimately to higher job satisfaction and stronger organizations.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Now, Tom, let's get to the fun part. What emerging AI PC use cases are you most excited for?
I love this question. There's a couple of them. I think security is frequently the top priority for most IT decision makers. And I think, unfortunately, PC users tend to associate security scanning with declining system performance. So you sort of have this tension between organizations and ITDMs wanting to run more and more security scans to keep their organizations from getting hacked. But oftentimes people see performance declines on their PC when the security scan is running. And no one wants to have to deal with that. So with AI PCs, a great security experience doesn't have to come at the cost of productivity. Intel's been partnering with a number of security ISVs to help offload AI security scanning from the cloud to the client. Much of the most valuable security data that these ISVs collect, it comes from endpoints themselves. And so the challenge, I think, up until now is that these ISVs have been restricted in their ability to use the most sophisticated AI capabilities on the client and only execute them in the cloud. And sending all that data to the cloud, as I mentioned before, that comes with privacy concerns, latency issues, sending things to the cloud and back, and obviously cost issues. So Intel's partnering with these ISVs to push the boundaries of what can be analyzed on the endpoint with deep learning. For example, in testing a model that would normally be run in the cloud and instead offloading things from the CPU to the NPU, that dropped CPU usage from around 20% to 1%, and that leads to better performance for the user, that leads to longer battery life. Another example is some of these ISVs have been integrating an Intel technology called TDT, or Intel Threat Detection Technology, and that allows them to perform accelerated memory scanning, targeting malicious byte patterns, and providing more robust protection at the endpoint. And that helps with next generation antivirus assessments and threat hunting. It moves some of that security scanning from the cloud to the client. That also helps with novel detection, quickens detection of things like fileless attacks. And all of these things take advantage of this NPU, which I've spoken about. And so that frees up the CPU resources to make performance better and increase battery life. And I think another area, in addition to security, this one is gaining a lot of interest as well, and it's just communication. It's something that many organizations struggle with, I think, particularly when it comes to language barriers. So organizations that operate across countries, they often find it difficult to have important information conveyed accurately. So using AI, we can now have a person speak in a given language on a video call and have the audience see and hear that video in that person's own local language, in sync with their lips and their movements and their tone. And that results in a dramatically improved communication experience across the globe. It removes barriers. It helps improve the way that we all communicate and understand language. So this is being offered today in our Gaudi-based cloud AI capabilities. But over time, it's going to find its way to the PC as hardware and software capabilities evolve. So I think, we should all expect to see some pretty exciting advancements coming in the form of communication driven through the advancements of AI.
Now, Tom, you've given us a lot of great information. How should organizations be thinking about their AI PC strategy, and how can they ensure ROI?
If they haven't already, I think they should start exploring AI features and capabilities and find out which ones add the most value for them. In our conversations with many customers, we've heard loud and clear that many of them want to build their own custom AI capabilities tailored to their own needs. And so we have tools like LLMware to help them do just that. This is an example of a kind of a user-friendly point-and-click executable app. It's optimized on Intel hardware. They can get started with private local language models and AI apps in minutes without any coding. Some of these apps include things like contract analysis and SQL queries and no-code workflow makers. And so it's a repository with over 100 models to choose from. So great opportunity for organizations of all sizes to start to experiment with how AI can benefit them. I also think they need to look at various criteria to help effectively make decisions on what AI PC should look like for them. So those criteria include things like budget, the age of their existing installed base, what's their refresh cadence strategy? Do they typically refresh every 3 years or 4 years? And then what is their infrastructure readiness for things like Microsoft M365? What are their data policies? And then I think one of the other areas that we've been working with customers on is identifying personas. We have identified 6 different personas, and I think that really helps organizations identify how AI PCs will be beneficial to the varying types of employees that they have in their organizations. And so obviously the AI PC is going to be more beneficial for certain types of personas than others, and I think that helps organizations make those decisions more effectively. But I think at the end of the day, what really matters is the total cost of ownership and the return on investment that they would get from making a purchase decision like an AI PC. We know there's choices out there, and it can be challenging for some organizations to put a price on security, put a price on the reputation of their company. We also know that investing in Intel-based platforms means helping put the industry's best security and best manageability solutions in their coworkers' hands. And that really serves as a hedge against things like security breaches and other reputation damaging situations. So you have to think big picture when it comes to PC decisions. And that is really what we're encouraging these IT decision makers to do right now.
And Tom, finally, what is your advice to IT leaders evaluating different AI PC platform providers?
We definitely know that there are choices, right? But I think you should think about it like this. A good AI PC first has to be a good PC. That means it has to deliver a good experience. It has to be secure, has to be easy to manage. And so Intel-based PCs score the highest in all of these areas, right? We offer the best value in terms of compatibility. We work with existing software and hardware, which is something that IT leaders really value. We have been relying on the best in terms of connectivity, right? With technologies like Wi-Fi 7 and Thunderbolt, Intel has a leadership position there. We also have deep partnerships with independent software vendors to enable more features and capabilities. Nobody has a more secure platform than Intel, and we're innovating to introduce new security scanning, as I mentioned earlier, to the GPU or graphics processing unit and the NPU or neural processing unit. And that allows more security features to be deployed on a device, makes the device more secure, makes the organization more secure. And we're the only silicon vendors who have partnered with the MITRE Center for Informed Defense to map Intel vPro security capabilities to real-world attack techniques. And so this delivers new visibility to security ops professionals where they know exactly how and where their hardware security provides mitigations and where it does not.
Tom, what an exciting time. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
To learn more, visit the website at the bottom of your screen. For the Channel Company, I'm Kenna Johnson.